All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Zenfolio Live. I'm Robert with Zenfolio Customer Success. I want to say thank you for joining us on the live stream today. Today, we're going to be talking about preparing your photography business for growth with very special guest, D'Arcy Benincosa. So we're going to be talking about self-auditing, the future of photography, what to focus on, and the art of abundance, as well as some other things. You guys that hang out with us week after week, get your questions ready. She's going to be hanging out with us, answering questions as well. Let me shout out some of you guys. We've got Robert DeSosa and Home Phone hanging out with us on YouTube and hanging out with us on Zoom. We've got Alexis, Anthony, Corey Woods, Cindy, Igor, Janet, and George, and some other people that I can't get my mouse to scroll down. Hey guys, thanks for jumping on here and hanging out with us today. Carl Jones saying evening on YouTube. All right, you guys. So we're going to be talking about preparing your photography business for growth. Just a couple of quick announcements really quick. First of all, hanging out with me today, taking care of you guys in chat, helping me with your questions, passing them along to me, moderating, keeping me on track. I've got Richard, so make sure that you guys show him some love. And then in the way of announcements, next week on, whoops, let me get back. Sorry, guys, I clicked too fast. Next week on Zenfolio Live, we're going to be talking about referral marketing with Jamie Stewart. The next Wide Angle Wednesday is happening January 6th, 2021. That's going to happen at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We did a little bit of a time change the last time we did Wide Angle Wednesday at 8 p.m., but it seems like everybody liked the 2 p.m. time better and the 11 a.m. time slot better. So make sure that you're registered for that. If you're not registered for Wide Angle Wednesday, if you're like, what is Wide Angle Wednesday? It is a live stream that we do on Facebook where we have a panelist of photographers join us. We ask them questions, kind of do a roundtable discussion. We have a lot of fun, and it's just a great place to hang out and learn about photography and about other photographers and about the business of photography. So if you want to register for that and you're watching on YouTube, the link to register for that's below the video in the description. If you're hanging out with us on Zoom, I'm sure Richard's going to throw that link out for you guys in chat really quick. And then lastly, make sure that you are sharing your favorite fall photos. I checked. The first day of winter is not till like the 21st, I think, of December. So we're still going to do fall photos. Make sure that you're sharing your favorite fall photos and use that hashtag Zenfolio Photographers for a chance for your images to be featured on our intro, as well as some of our social media platforms as well. All right. Well, that is all for announcements. So let's go ahead and welcome our special guest. Her work and teachings have been featured in the Huffington Post, Martha Stewart, Out Magazine, ABC, NBC, The View, and Upworthy, just to name a few. In the past decade, she has founded not one, but 3 six-figure companies, and she has helped thousands of creatives all over the world create businesses that bring joy, wealth, and fulfillment. Please help me in welcoming D'Arcy Benincosa to Zenfolio Live. All right, D'Arcy, if you want to turn your...
There we go. I'm here. Took me a second.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Sometimes I get lost in trying to click the buttons and I can't ever find my camera button. And then I feel really weird trying to click the buttons. How's your day going so far, D'Arcy?
Oh, just roping 2 little puppies that were COVID decisions and trying to train them to not eat everything. One ate a plastic bottle this morning and we had to have emergency issues. No, not really. Like he'll survive. He survives everything. Yeah.
Nice. Puppies are wonderful. We have a little one too that she likes to get into the tissues wherever she finds them.
They love them. Randomly. They love chewing everything you don't want them to chew.
Exactly. Well, for people watching who might not be familiar with you and what you do, can you kind of give us a quick overview of what you currently are in the progress of doing?
Yeah. So I left a day job, as I used to call it, that 9-to-5 job over a decade ago to pursue my passion for travel and photography. So I really wanted to create this life where I could be an artist, right? Create these epic images and do it while I was seeing the world. Because I think, are most of the listeners in a creative field? Are they photographers in some way? you're drawn to storytelling. And so in everything that I do, I'm trying to tell a story, whether it's a story of love with weddings, whether it's a story of activism, whether it's a story of, we have as humans, that's sort of what we live off of, right? Is our own story, getting to know other people. So I've created businesses where I get to do that. So I also am a marketing person. So I help creative people really learn how to market what they create so that they can make money off of it. Because one thing that is my mission to end is this idea of starving artists. So many artists think they have to be poor, and that's sort of what they accept. And I am really good at helping artists learn how to make money.
I love that. I love that you're so passionate about getting rid of the starving artist syndrome. I think that that's
It
such
is
a big,
not romantic.
no, not at
People
all.
think
Not
it's
at,
romantic. It's not. It's hard. Yeah.
it is hard. So you started out as a photographer, and then as it kind of went through, you grew into like photography, business coaching. How did you kind of get into that? What drew you into that?
Into photography? Oh
Into business
gosh.
coaching
Oh, into
and
business coaching. Well,
yes.
one thing as a photographer, so it was really survival, right? I do not have a spouse. I don't have any extra income. When I left my day job, it was like I either do this or I'm going to have to go work at Starbucks or something. And so 2 years before I left my day job, I started really training in business because for a long time our artist selves can tell ourselves like we're not good with numbers or I'm horrible at marketing. We can all tell ourselves these stories, and I just decided to change my story. That's a cool thing about anything that we do. We can always decide to change our own story. So I started telling myself I am good with numbers. I do know how to market. And I started attending marketing conferences and getting like MBA marketing training and running and business training and business foundational training and hanging out in rooms with entrepreneurs and people who are running their own businesses and really learning all the foundational ways of having a business that can bring in an expected revenue again and again, because most artists live paycheck to paycheck and they are kind of a victim to if they're getting inquiries in their inbox. And if they're not getting those inquiries, then how are they going to make it? Right. And I did not live like living that way. I lived that way the first couple of years as I was trying to develop my craft. But from there, I really, I really started like once I left that day job, I was legit a business, started putting in marketing campaigns and getting my work out there in very strategic ways so that I could have an income that I could depend upon.
So it sounds like you kind of dove in rather than dipping your toe in the water. You kind of dove in
Yeah,
full
that's my
force.
personality.
Love it. I
I
love
don't
it.
know how to dip a toe in. What is that? No, plunge head first. Hopefully not shallow water.
I love that. I love that. So, can you talk a little bit about your photography experience, just a little bit, kind of share with our viewers like what you've done as far as photography wise goes, your passion for
Mm,
photography, what you love doing?
yeah, let's talk of photography like a soulmate. So, a good soulmate you cannot get enough of, and you get so excited, but they can also trigger you like crazy and you want to throw in the towel. So, all of those emotions, photography is all about emotion for me. And I allow myself to really feel those emotions because we live in a world where we kind of don't treat emotions with the respect that they deserve, and we kind of get in these little boxes, especially if somebody ever says like, oh, you're overreacting or something like that. I'm all about like feeling all of that. So photography has really allowed me to channel these visions that I have, this ideal space that I have. I'm an idealist, I'm a romantic. I am an artist in terms of like color palettes. I love watching movies, like Wes Anderson. Like you can tell he's just so detailed about symmetry and things like that. So photography was my way of expressing the artist within me. And I did it for years before I ever decided I could actually make a living off of it. And God bless one of my friends, because I knew him in college and then we didn't see each other for like 10 years. And then I saw him and he was a very big photographer and he was making like $300,000 or $400,000 a year at photography, and I was making $50,000 a year as a school teacher, feeling very trapped that my genius had no way to expand financially. And so when I saw him doing that, I was like, okay, if he can do this, I can do this. And once I allowed myself to make money with my art and not feel like a sellout, then I was able to kind of bring those two things together. Because I've met a lot of artists who feel that if they make money at it, they won't be as genius or something. I don't know. There's a lot of stories like that out there.
Love it. I love that you said once you allowed yourself to make money with your art. So can you kind of tell me a little bit about what you did to kind of change that mindset and to really start growing your business as a photographer?
Well, again, I'm very much in the place of thinking of money in terms of a relationship. And I want you guys to think of like the best relationship you've ever had. And I want you to think of one of the worst relationships you've ever had. And my guess is two of the most probably intense relationships you're ever going to have is one is with money and one is with time. We live in a culture, and I think they both are wealth, right? We have to really look at wealth. And time scarcity is where we run around all day, always doing the next thing, never being able to check off our to-do list, never feeling accomplished, always judging that we never got enough done by the end of the day, and we go to bed dissatisfied, right? So that's a type of abundance I like to talk about. And money is really a relationship where you get to decide how. I always say self-worth equals net worth. So, and this is in the artist situation because I'm talking as a very white privileged person here. I'm not talking about, I mean, we can dive into all the other ways that, it's hard for other people to make money. But in my experience, which I am speaking to, it's really about me stepping into my talent being worth an energetic exchange. So, my talent as a photographer, what I bring to the table in terms of experience, in terms of the art that I create, in terms of know how. Malcolm Gladwell talks about this concept called the 10,000 hour rule. And he says that once somebody puts 10,000 hours into practicing something, they should be in a space where they're making a really great financial return from that. So I have challenged myself in all of those ways to, as my work up leveled, that my relationship with money up leveled. And those do not always go together. Some people can have, I've seen photographers with the most powerful imagery, but the lowest sense of their self-worth, of the fact that they could charge for that imagery. And so as much as I was working on my images being amazing, I also had to do this internal process of realizing that I could charge for the work that I was putting in. So a simple thing that I started doing in my business was every 10 weddings that I shot, I raised my wedding prices $1,000. My packages would start at 2,000. And then after I shot 10 weddings and I really, 10 really powerful weddings, and I would start at 3,000. So because I was putting in like 50, 60, sometimes 100 hours into one wedding with everything. And so I was like, well, if I've just put in 1,000 hours, I get to raise my prices by $1,000. So I don't know. There's so much I could say about money and having that relationship with it, but realizing that money is an energy, realizing that what wants you, what you want wants you. That's a really powerful thing. So if you have a desire inside to make more money, if you have a desire inside to travel to Paris, if you have a desire inside to get the cover of a magazine, all of those desires are pointing you as a compass to where you get to go. Now, I have a bigger desire to make more money than my younger sister. She doesn't really care about money. It's not her thing. She's like $50K a year. I have a house payment that's $600 and I have ultimate freedom, right? So it really is about what you're desiring and then allowing that to come in through your actions.
Love it. I love all the stuff that you said. I love when you talk about the 10,000 hour rule. And then when you were talking about raising your pricing as a wedding photographer, because I think that there are so many things that it's like for the longest time, there wasn't any good, like solid formula that we could really think about or put into practice. And we all would just kind of like throw it out in the dark. Like, when should we raise our prices? When is it okay for me to raise my prices? And I know something that I struggled with as a photographer, being a self-taught photographer, was finding that self-worth.
Mm.
Feeling like, okay, well, I'm around all these other photographers that I know, like went to school, have degrees and all this stuff. And I got on YouTube and taught myself how to be a photographer. I can't be worth as much as they are. And so I love that you're talking about finding your self-worth, because that is something that I had to go through as well.
And see, that's the story that you had. I had a story that was like, oh my gosh, self-taught is way better than being schooled, because I get all these different teachers, and I get to just go to this country and learn this, so it's all about what story we're telling ourselves of what we get to be. And there is that formula, right? Every thousand hours I raised $1,000. And artists do want formulas, and I love giving them to them. But the ultimate thing is when you don't need that and you truly use your intuition. So with my pricing now, I don't have a set guide. And it's one of the things I teach in one of my courses is customized proposals. And I will just check in with myself. What would it take? What is the number that I will feel showing up to that wedding that I can do my best work? And I factor in how long I have to travel to get there, how many days it's going to require me, how big the wedding party is. I factor in a lot of things. Then I'll ask my intuition, what would feel this? Because the worst thing to do is when you undercharge, let's say you should have charged, $7,000 for something and you charge two, and then you get to the event and all you do is you're mad at yourself because you feel like you're being taken advantage of. The work you're going to create at that wedding is not going to be beautiful, or the event or whatever you're doing. If you took less than your body feels like you deserve, and then you go there, you're going to taint that situation because you will be inauthentic to what you feel you should have gotten from that. And you'll be kind of angry. Have you ever had that experience where you really undercharged and you got there and you're like, this was not worth it. What was I doing? What was I thinking? Why did I give them this answer in scarcity? And that's the thing. Artists are in scarcity. And so they'll give a quote in scarcity, and then they show up and they realize, oh my gosh, what was I doing? I should have charged so much more for this. I'm worth so much more than this. And hopefully you don't have to have too many of those lessons. I only had a few, and then I was like, I'm not going to stay in this cycle.
Yeah, definitely have had experience with that. Luckily, my wife is much faster at learning lessons than I am. So
Yeah.
when I made those mistakes a couple of times, she was there to remind me. Now, remember, you paid this. We kind of had an argument about it because it wasn't even worth you being away for when you were away. And so luckily, I had somebody there to kind of remind me, like, don't do it again. Don't do it again, because it was not a pleasant experience for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Love it. So I'm glad that you talk about, there's some courses that you do. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about different courses that you offer? I know you have some on your site. There's a lot listed. And guys, if you're watching on YouTube, there's actually a link to her free training, because she has a lot of free trainings.
I have lots of free stuff.
Lots of free stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I have really, over the past decade of, I grew from $16,000 in photography income to 120 in 1 year, which is insane. And all the things I did to get there that was a lot of hustle. But I'm really proud of myself that I did it, because it taught me very quickly a lot of things. So what I've done is create a journey for a photographer to build a $500,000 year business and have it not actually be really stressful. So, it is always a little bit in the beginning, but what I've done with the courses. So the first course is the profitable portfolio. And I teach the secrets behind inside everything I do to pose and light, and how I make a $10,000 wedding look like a $100,000 wedding, and a $100,000 wedding look like $1,000,000 wedding. And then I go behind the scenes of a lot of $1,000,000 weddings that I have photographed and shown how I have structured that for publication. Because I always tell people, don't start with marketing if you have a bad product. You can be a great marketer, but if your images suck, if they're horrible, if people can't connect with them and you don't know why people can't connect with them, you have to do this portfolio audit. I mean, I had 2 portfolio reviews at the beginning of my career. One changed my life and one did nothing for me. One, the person didn't want to hurt my feelings. And so they were like, it was this high-end editor. I wanted to get in her magazine. I paid $500 for this portfolio review. And she was like, oh, that's really great. Oh, I like that. That's really nice. And I said, well, then why aren't you taking my images? I know they're not great, or else you would be accepting them. And she wouldn't tell me. And I think it was because she just didn't want to hurt my feelings. And I am not that kind of teacher. I will hurt feelings, but I say I have tough love, but emphasis on the love, because then I got a second portfolio review a couple months later, and he told me the truth. And he was like, you're better than this. This is what's wrong with this. This is why this image isn't working. And it was like, I couldn't see it until he pointed it out to me. And this is where I do feel having someone advanced in whatever field you're in, look at what you're creating and give you solid feedback, because you can't see it. If you could see it, you'd be doing it, right? And so this whole course is about how to make you see it. And quick story, like after that portfolio review, I spent the next year building the right portfolio for who I wanted. And Sports Illustrated magazine called me, like legit, and hired me to come in because they loved my portrait work. And I got my first job with Sports Illustrated magazine, which I never, like, I was such a baby still, but I had really mastered my portfolio. So anyway, that's course number 1. And what else it teaches is really how to communicate so you can charge luxury prices. So what I've found in the photography industry is I've coached thousands of photographers over the years. You can't tell, but I'm in my 40s, so I have a lot of wisdom. So what I noticed is they were too friendly. They were too friendly. And sometimes with luxury, you have to give them more of this experience. You go into Chanel. I always tell people, go to Paris or go to New York and go into Bergdorf's, go into Chanel. If you're uncomfortable there, which I was at the beginning because I grew up very poor, and I'm wearing my $50 Old Navy coat and I'm looking at these $7,000 handbags and feeling like the sales lady is judging me. You have to learn how. Somebody with $1 million wedding budget, they have a standard of communication. And so this course also goes into that. Is that too long on one course? The second one, I'll just go really fast. It's a marketing course. So it takes all the images and it teaches you exactly how to market them so that you get your name seen. I had publications in all, you look at my resume, my bio, it looks really impressive, but there was a system behind that. And so I teach the system behind that so you can get that social proof. Because one of the reasons I can charge $10,000 and up for a wedding is because I have the Sports Illustrated credit. I have the Martha Stewart credential. I have the Harper's Bazaar credential. That's called social proof. And it's a key point in marketing. It helps people trust you. And when they see those logos on your website, it's a built-in trust. Like, oh, this person must be very, very well, situated if they're having this success. Does that make sense?
No, that was great. And I love that you lead with portfolio, because I think that photographers understand that it's important, but I don't think they realize how important your portfolio really is. But I also love that you said, if your portfolio is not good, you can market it as much as you want. But then the opposite is also true, right? Like if you have this great, amazing portfolio, you still have to know how to market it and get it in front of people, because if you have this amazing work and nobody's seeing it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And I saw that hole in the industry, which I'm really good at seeing. Like, this was the course I needed. And most photographer educators are teaching, like, here's how to win at Instagram. And Instagram doesn't matter as much anymore. It used to when you could grow it. Now it's like impossible to grow. So it's not really a thing. So the portfolio course, and, I put my heart and soul into that, and it is just caught on fire, and everybody feels like, it's got amazing testimonials because it's getting people such real results, which is awesome.
I love that. I love that. And guys, we do see your questions. I am going to get to those in a second, I promise. But I do want to ask, so we had talked a little bit about this before, but with everything that's going on in the world and everything, our industry, which as everything is changing. And so I'm curious to see, what is your thoughts and feelings on what the future of photography looks like?
I know people ask that. Well, one, I don't think we can know 10 years into the future or anything because we have seen that it's changing rapidly. Um, Two, I think this is when we really have to tap into our own superpower, like what we are, because it's not just enough anymore to be a good wedding photographer. And I do think that we are more of our brands than ever before. So, learning how to connect with that audience, having that connection is really, really important. I've seen photographers spend so much money on styled shoots that didn't land and didn't go anywhere and didn't bring them back a monetary return. And I would say there's a lot of different places to spend your marketing on. You do still have to create those amazing images, but it's really about how you are showing up and what energy you're putting out there. And, there's so many little things that I think people are putting their attention on that don't matter as much as things that do. But you have had some ideas on this too. What was one of your big takeaways? Because we were talking about it.
Right. So some of the things I think a lot of us need to start focusing on is more experience based. I
Mhm.
mean, it's one thing to produce good images, but when we think about the services that we hire or the things that we do now, um, we leave with this experience in mind of like, okay, was it a good experience or not? Like one example I can think of is when COVID got really bad and all the quarantine was everywhere. Airbnb dropped its online experiences. And
Mm.
I don't know if you've done any of those, if you did any of those in the quarantine or not,
No,
but
are they amazing?
I was just blown away. My wife and I actually had to quarantine away from my family for a little bit, and my wife was really down, and we did a virtual date, and we had some guy in Madrid, Spain, teach us the history of flamenco guitar and play it while we
Mm.
had like this separate virtual dinner date while we were in quarantine, which was pretty amazing. But things like that, just the experience about, having limo drivers maybe pick up your clients. You have the
Yeah.
opportunity now, especially on Zenfolio, we have opportunity for you to offer things pre-order where clients can prepay for services and packages and all kinds of stuff. But having experiences like that, where it's not just about print sales, it's about that experience of having professional makeup artists and things like that.
Yeah, it really is about tailoring an experience. I agree with you completely. And that requires you knowing what you can give. For example, I'm not great at album design, so I never really pushed that in my business. So I know a lot of people have made, one of the people I know, she's like makes 30K a year just from albums. But something I'm really good at, like I have this Paris session that I sell, and it's going to come back, as soon as we're able to travel, and it's such a detailed experience. It's like what you got with Airbnb. And I do think having your genius, so I do think showing up more fully as yourself. I also think creating work that is a little outside of the box, and I also think sharing your real opinions. I know we never, some people are like, I don't want to share my personal opinions, but that's sort of where we're at. People want to know that they align with the person that they're hiring, and they want to support people. And so I think that it's really powerful. And all the shy people out there right now are just dying and they don't want to hear this, but there's a way that you can, even with your shyness, bring something really magical to your clients so that they will spread the word. And I do think, even though we have all these social platforms, that word of mouth is still and will always be, because we're humans, will always be the biggest thing you can do to grow your business.
I love that. And I love that you address the shy people because naturally I'm an introvert.
Me too.
Naturally. And I had to do this and to do this stuff and to be a photographer and to make people have and enjoy the time that we had together. I had to create a character that was a real character that I am. It's just I was letting that character come to life and and be there. And so I think that it's really important that you learn how to do that, how to create that character and be that person that you might be afraid to be, but it's a really authentic person that you are.
Well, I think all great lessons can be learned from Beyonce, and she created Sasha Fierce, and it's that whole idea. And again, it also is the idea that we're telling ourselves. We may have told ourselves for a really long time, I'm shy, I don't want to get on stories, I don't really want to show my face. Women can be really hard about their physical appearance and they can make all these excuses. But again, that's just something that you can change. I know people don't think they can, but it really is something that you can change. I never thought I would show my face as much as I now do, but it's what draws people into my business when I get on there and do what I'm great at, which is teaching. I'm really good at teaching and framing things and helping people understand how to run their business. And so that's my superpower. And we all have it, we all have that magic in us. I always call it your marketing magnet. What is the thing that makes you magnetic to somebody else? And it's not always what other people are doing, which is why I think I'll go back to really quickly. I don't think that old PDF of pricing is serving you at all. That's an old way of doing it. And there's really a new, more personable way. Is personable a word? I think so. I don't know.
Definitely is a word.
There's that new way of having that connection and that experience.
I love that. I love that. So a couple of things really quick. I want to make sure that we hit on. You and I talked about before. We talked about because I'd asked if there was an end of the year kind of self-audit process that you go through, and you answered me with a really funny answer. You said there's a daily, a weekly, a monthly, like an hourly self-audit.
Yeah.
So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't just do end of the year because I am a very focused person. And I also feel like, I'm not super religious, so I don't really know what happens after we die. But I think too many people make the excuse of heaven will be amazing. So whatever I do here is okay because I'm going to live forever. And I don't really have that. And so I really feel like this is my one life. This is my one chance. And I was put here for a reason and I have a deep purpose. And what is that purpose? And for me, I was at a conference once and I remember somebody said, "What is the key to happiness?" And he was waiting for the audience to respond. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is the key to happiness? Is it money? Is it love? Is it this?" I had all these things. And he was like, "No, it has been proven the key to happiness is progress." So when we as individuals feel like we are moving forward, think about it. When you feel like you're in a flow, that you're moving forward, that you're making traction, that's really when you're like dancing in the kitchen, right? You're happy, you're making dinner with more spice, you're just like loving life. And when you feel stuck and you feel unseen and you feel unheard, that's when you're just like miserable. And it's just, for me, then that audit, that self audit is really important because, there's two things. That quote by Steve Jobs, where he's like, if you wake up too many days in a row and you don't like what you're doing, you need to change. And then there's this article I found from a past lover like 10 years ago. And it was an article called Never Wait. And I think you can still Google it and find it. And it was talking about, so often we wait till we feel more secure, or we wait till we feel safer. And really that's all an illusion. Security is an illusion. My parents think that maybe they're more secure than I because they go to a day job. It's an illusion. They're not more secure than me being self-employed. It's just not true. I've proven that I make like 7 times as much as them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not true. So that idea of never waiting, I moved to Paris when I was 8 days after I turned 20 years old. And I would go to Notre Dame like every week because it was just magical. And there weren't a lot of tourists. This was back in 1997. And now, Notre Dame burned down. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I never waited, because now there's going to be a whole generation of people who aren't able to go in and see the inside of Notre Dame. And that's just kind of my philosophy, right? We don't want to wait on things. They're always going to be scary. It's always going to feel scary to leave your day job. It's always going to feel scary to give somebody a really high quote on a job. It's going to feel scary to fall in love. It's going to feel scary to get a divorce. It's going to feel scary to move to a new town. Luckily, I've done all of these things multiple times. I've lived like 20 lives. So I recognize the fear and I have a relationship with it. And I'm like, okay, not today. But at the end of each day, I want to make sure I've made some progress. So that self-auditing is really important. I actually got on with my Facebook group yesterday and I had them write their not to-do list, because so many people, you ask them, what do you want to do? They don't know. But you say, what do you want to not do anymore? Oh, they'll write you a whole list. And that's kind of shows you the human brain goes to the fear more than the joy. But once you start the not to do list, then from there you can figure out what you need to start doing. So if one person was like, I want to stop feeling mom guilt, right? That's what I want to stop doing. I feel guilty all the time that I'm not living up. And so on her to-do list might be change my ideas of what a good mom is. I'm like, listen, during COVID, my definition of an awesome mother are at the end of the day, are the kids alive? If the kids are alive, you won. Like you survived, you did it. That you can let that mom guilt go. You have to change your standard for that. So I hope I could go on about that all the time, but hopefully that got at least to the root of the question you were
Right.
asking.
No, I love that you answer that with don't wait, and that you continuously do that audit to check and see if you're doing the things that you want to do and not doing the things that you don't want to do. So I think that's a beautiful answer.
Yeah. As the soap opera says, one life to live, everybody.
Exactly, exactly. So all of you guys who are thinking about starting photography business, maybe doing on Instagram right now, don't wait. Don't wait.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Never been a
Now,
better time to be a photographer. There's
it's a
never been a
wonderful
better
time.
time. Everybody needs photos and video. If you can do photography and video too, you're just going to kill it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what is one thing right now that you would encourage photographers and our listeners to either start doing, or since you brought up the don't do, maybe the don't do, pick one. I'll let you have the freedom of choice of that one.
Oh man, I would say stop doing things because you feel manipulated into doing them. Meaning, I had a client get kind of mad this morning because their gallery expired and I have a re-upload fee. And they really didn't like that. And I was like, well, and I was thinking like the old D'Arcy would have been like, okay, never mind. But it takes me about 2 hours to find the old gallery, upload it. I deserve to be paid for my time. It was up there for a while. You know what I mean? And so I would say stop letting your emotions dictate how you run your business. Like this is a business and I do have the right to charge for things that I feel are worthy of charging for. And, I also learned from that experience that I probably needed to give them more communication on that, right? Like I thought they had gotten the communication, they didn't. So, right. So I get to learn that, but stop reacting and then like letting your boundaries go because you are worried about somebody being mad at you. It's okay to let people are going to get mad at you. You run a business. There's no way you are always going to make everybody happy. If you are exhausted and depleted and you have no life because you were just trying to make everybody happy. So those boundaries around just knowing that not everybody is going to be happy with you. And as long as you are in business, that's going to keep happening. And then what to start doing, I would say intuition is the least tapped resource that we have. And creatives are very insecure people. And they want to ask a million other people what they should do with their lives instead of sitting in silence, whether it's in meditation or a long walk in nature, and tapping into what they truly desire and what they were truly put here to do and what their superpower really is. And superpower, yes, it can be intuition. Mine is. I am a very highly intuitive person, and it's how I make my decisions. And so, I would say that is something that we all have. It's our sixth sense that we do not put enough value on. And then I have one more. We need to live more from our heart than our head. Our heads will do us in. We can constantly be in circles. Did I do this? Did I do this? What are they thinking about that? Did I do that? Okay. Did I fail? Am I doing our heads? The Western world has been taught to live from their head. They've been taught to judge everything. They've been taught to put meaning on everything. Some things just don't mean anything. And we don't tap into here. And when you really tap into your heart, you will make those connections and your business will flow, because while your head is genius, it is also a major creator of problems. So that is something I could spend 2 hours just talking on. But hopefully, if you're hearing this and that's kind of piquing your interest, then you can start to, go do a Google search, how to get out of my head and into my heart, how to work from a heart space. I think that's really important.
Love that. I love that. All the stuff that you mentioned. One of the things that I started doing this year was doing a meditation practice. And out of anything that I've ever done in my entire life, nothing has had such a big impact on my life than daily meditating. And so I love that you say that, because it's amazing. Definitely
Yeah,
something I
it's powerful.
encourage.
I do it too. I love it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've got 20 minutes left. Lots of time to answer
Okay.
questions. D'Arcy and I are going to take a quick break. Richard is going to jump on here and say hi to you guys. We'll come back. So if you have questions for D'Arcy, make sure to get those in the chat. We're going to be back here in a few minutes. Richard's going to jump on here and say hi to you guys, and then we'll be right back.
Thanks, Robert. What's up, y'all? Happy Thursday. My name is Richard with the Zenfolio Customer Success Team. Man, life lessons, photography, Beyonce. We're covering some good stuff here, so I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. If you have any questions for D'Arcy, of course, whether you're in Zoom or whether you're on YouTube, please feel free to put them within the Q&A on Zoom, and then the chat on YouTube. I'll be sending those over even as they're addressing questions. So we're always happy to do that. And two, one thing that I always love to bring up is, of course, there are some really great resources on D'Arcy's website, which we have put within both chats. Definitely check that out. Definitely check her website out. And then you can always come over to our Zenfolio Support Center to see how you can put those things into practice within Zenfolio. I do have the support center open here. I just want to show you where you can find those webinars. So within the support center, there will be a little webinar tab. You can select that, and that will bring you to our events. These are completely complimentary. So of course, if you learn some good stuff from D'Arcy, go over her site, learn some information, you can always bring that back over to Zenfolio by taking these classes that we offer. We do have different ones for SEO and marketing, pricing and selling. They're completely complimentary. So please take advantage of that. But like I said, if you have any questions before we start addressing the ones you've already asked, feel free to put them within the chat. We are happy to assist. And in the meantime, speaking of assisting, I'm going to go ahead and give that right back over to Robert so we can address those questions for you. So right back at you, Robert.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate you, man, jumping on here week after week and hanging out with me. Does such a great job. Great job. Great job. Okay, we're going to get to your guys' questions. This one is from Shelly Ellis. So I think this might be on Zoom. She says, so right now, and this is for you, D'Arcy, right now, what is your income stream percentage? Example, do you do like 70% art sales, 30% market consulting? And how has it changed in the current economic situation?
Good question. So
Really good
it's
question.
usually 30% is weddings, 30% are workshops, and 40% is coaching, consulting, courses, right? I've been pretty consistent with those. I shoot about 10 to 12 weddings a year, all 5 figures and above. I don't like to overwork myself. Now, don't get me wrong, at the beginning, I was shooting like 30 a year, like all the crazy people out there, but that's where it is now. And then what was the second part of the question? How has it changed during COVID? I would say, I launched the Profitable Portfolio this year, and I would say that's been a larger percentage. And I only shot 3 weddings this year, and then most of them have moved to next year. So next year is probably going to be higher wedding return. This year has been more course return. So I think 50% of my income has been coaching and courses, if that helps. I don't know if those numbers help you or what, if you have more in depth about that, but
definitely. I mean, I think the thing is to keep in mind is that we have the technology to really be versatile in what we're doing. Like, we don't have to get stuck in this one track mindset. When things change, we can adapt and change. And we've seen that.
Well, I think every creative needs to find a way to bring in passive income, which means bringing in income when they are not present, not exchanging time for money. And that comes with growth, and that comes with an idea of what you want to do. I do not think everybody is born to be a teacher. And I think many creatives think that's the only way to make money. So then they start teaching and they're horrible at it. But I do think there are a lot of other ways to bring in passive income and to make different relationships that can work outside of photography. And I would encourage everybody to be looking at that, because one thing I don't think photographers think enough about is their retirement and saving that and doing 401ks and having investments, which I have a very hard time understanding when accountants talk to me, because they speak a language called math that I am not very fluent in. I'm fluent in French and English and art, but not math. And I've really worked to get fluent in that. And then in my money course, which I have, which I didn't actually mention, which is on sale right now, I have a whole section about taxes and investing that is actually explained in a way that people finally understand it. Because creative people, non-creative people, which are usually accountants, they're not good at like relating to others and learning how to speak on their level. And then most creatives feel stupid. So then they give up and they don't do anything. And that's the point I was at a few years ago, until I realized I have to understand this. So I found 2 accountants. They actually helped me make the course, who will take the time to explain, and they come on and they do Q&As there. And we talk about write-offs that you might not know about. We talk about extra things to file when you're a photographer, all these things that you don't even learn when you go to photography school. You're just learning how to develop and, composition and stuff like that. And then I really talk about like investments, and I'm pretty open about my investment plans. I don't give investment advice because I am not licensed to do that, but I do at least clearly explain the process, which has been really revolutionary for everybody who's gone through the course.
Wow. And that's something we continuously have questions about, is tax, and how should they charge sales tax, and what can I write off? So go check out that course, you guys. It sounds like it's fantastic. Okay, this is from Laura on Zoom. She said, so how did you know what to charge Sports Illustrated?
Sports Illustrated does not let you call the shots. They told me what I would get paid, and it was very low. And I was shocked. And that's when I decided, I don't think I want to play this game. I'm going to do weddings so I can make a lot more money. Because to build your way up in a Sports Illustrated world, and I was not the lead photographer by any means. I was packing gear, I was styling, I was doing a lot of different things for the Olympics shoot, which happens in Park City, Utah, and I live in Utah. So they did not negotiate a price with me. In fact, most jobs like that won't. It's very different than when you're the artist being sought after and you get to present your price, which I like that a lot better than somebody telling me this is what we give you. Yeah.
So that one's more for the cred, right? Sometimes things have more value than just the money you're going to make from it. You kind of have to make that decision of like, okay, well, being able to say this and show this in my portfolio is going to far benefit me more than this in the long run.
Yeah. And I was a newbie, and, I learned so much on that job. And here's the thing, and this is where I think a lot of our egos come into play. I think we all think we want to work for these big places because we'll feel kind of famous or something. And I realized that's not, I want a faster way to money and a faster way to freedom. And let me tell you how many voices were in the room looking at all the images, and everybody had a say. And guess who did not have the biggest say? The photographer did not have a very big say. And I was like, and I watched the process and I thought, this would destroy me. I don't know if I want to do this, because now I have curated my portfolio according to me. I've just learned in life, my master's degree was in directing from NYU, and directing theater and television and movies. And that's how I approach my wedding days. I direct them, I create the story, and I want to be the boss. And when I was working at Sports Illustrated, I was not the boss. And I just have a personality that's very CEO like. So
great answer. And it kind of flows into our next question, because I love that you talk about curating your portfolio, because Stephanie Valdez wants to know, how do you find your ideal client?
Well, you have to know what you want to shoot. So, Stephanie, some people want to shoot, like I have friends who have shot both Jonas brother weddings. Well, an acquaintance and one friend. And they get to charge a lot of money to do something that grand. And that's not really my ideal audience. I actually really like the 10K to 20K range. It's usually lawyers and doctors. They're usually getting married a little later in life. So I market to them different. I don't know if differently than I would when people are doing. So there is this big phase of like adventure elopements when they're standing on a cliffside and the bride is getting a piggyback from this messy haired bunned groom, and they had to hike 7 miles to get that shot. And those people look 22 and they look to me like they have no money. I'm like, so you'll never see a picture of a young person on a cliffside getting a piggyback ride in my portfolio, because lawyers and doctors would die if that is what I made them do. And so it's really about what I do to make it easier to understand ideal client. I say, choose a celebrity. So if your celebrity client is Kim Kardashian, can you see what your website and your portfolio would need to look like? It's going to be very like made up women with high end luxury clothes who probably get lip injections and have fake eyelashes. Like that's going to be the portfolio you need to show. My ideal client is Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales or whatever princess she is. She's classic. She wore like a high neck lace gown. It's tiara, white roses, big train, elegant dinner. Do you see what I mean? So when you if you can pinpoint a celebrity, and this is what I teach in the marketing course, then you'll know how your brand needs to look to attract that celebrity.
Love that answer. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I ever got on the portfolio was show what you want to shoot. When you think about your own buying habits and how we do things, even when it comes to things like food that we eat, right? We know that certain foods are gluten-free, but if it doesn't show gluten-free on the label, and that's something that's really important to us, we're not going to buy that. We're going to look for something that is showing that. So one of the things that I heard a lot was just show what you want to shoot. So once you understand who it is you're trying to attract, show those kind of photos. So definitely great stuff. Okay, this is from Odin Mina. I think I said it right. Says, hi D'Arcy, are you running your business by yourself, or do you have a teamwork of a web designer, assistant, social media, etc.? I do know of at least one person that you have working for us who's been amazing through this whole time. Cassie has been just amazing.
The business would not exist without Cassie. I text her all the time. Please never leave me. Not in a codependent way, but no, it can be hard to take that first step. I got a business coach in 2016 and she was like, your first step is you have to get a VA. And I'm like, I can do this all myself. And once and I was very scared. I only committed to 4 hours a week, which is $100. And so that's $400 a month. Now I'm paying much more than that. I have a team, and I would say some months it's $10K that I'm paying out for the team. So yeah, you get to grow. One of the keys to growth is to get people who can free up so you can be more creative. So my first VA was not Cassie. It was someone, a lovely person named Megan. And what she did is she came in and started responding to emails, sending out newsletters, and doing contracts. And that freed me up to then create the coaching business, which I needed a lot more time to create. So yeah, when you're ready to grow, you do need to hire. And a lot of photographers resist. I resisted for years because I thought I could do it all myself and I wanted to keep all the money, but my capacity to make money expands when I have a team. So yeah, I have 3 people on my team currently.
Nice. Great answer. I think I agree with you. It's something that so many people are afraid to start doing. But when you think about how much per hour do you want to make, and then can you pay somebody a little cheaper to do something that you don't even want to do in the first place for you, then it just totally makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah. Great. And if your gut's telling you it's time to get help, then it's time to get help.
Yes, definitely. All right, we probably got time for 1 or 2 more questions. This one is from Lynn. This is a good question. How do you say no to a job?
I have no problem. I don't know. What do you like? What, like an amazing job or a bad job? Like, I guess I would. How do I say no to a job? Yeah, I mean, intuition. Like, is it something that I am called to do? I don't take jobs out of fear anymore or scarcity. So there are many times I'll get inquiries. I get a lot of inquiries. So at the beginning of the career, I got a lot of inquiries and I booked a lot of jobs because I was right where they wanted me in that 3 to 5K range. That's like a typical wedding photography range. So I booked them. Now I get a lot of inquiries. I book like so much less because I'm very careful about do I connect with this person? Is it a wedding I'm excited to shoot? Because at this point in the career, I don't actually need to be shooting weddings to be fine. I live pretty simply and pretty inexpensively. And so the way the rest of my career is going, I don't need the wedding. So I think that's where you get the freedom when you don't need it to survive. Saying yes or no becomes really easy. So if you need the wedding to survive, listen, there were many times I needed the wedding to survive. So I didn't say no. I would dip down lower and take, like, if I had a Saturday free at the beginning of my career and somebody was like, 5-hour elopement, only $1,500 when I used to charge $500 an hour and I was free that day, I was like, I could do a lot with $1,500. So I'm going to take it. So it's really the freedom financially of where you're at that I would say dictates whether you say yes or no.
Love that answer. Love that answer. And then a great way to say no is referral marketing. When somebody a job comes up that you don't not want to take,
Yeah,
somebody
perfect.
who can rock it, and then they're tossing jobs back and forth to you, pass that off to the next guy who hopefully will pass them back to you.
That is perfect. And I have a group of 4 women and we have referred weddings for the last 4 years and it's awesome. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. I think you guys are talking about that next week, which is such a powerful, powerful topic.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And Stephanie says, thank you for the great advice. She said, so maybe like creating a stylized shoot to create the look first. So,
Yes. But you have to be really clear on your look. And I would rather you do one styled shoot for the year instead of 5 smaller ones that are subpar. I see a lot in backyards. I see a lot with non-models. So you have people who don't really know how to work the camera and you're trying to do it on the cheap and it's not going to work. So I have been there and I have failed at that. And now I know how to put one on that I know will get a major return.
love it. Love it.
And I have a guide to publication that talks about that. It's free. It's somewhere in the ether,
Nice.
somewhere on my website.
It'll be on the description below the video as well.
Cool.
You guys can click on that. We got like a few minutes left. I know you got another call coming up after this.
Yes, I do.
What are any final thoughts? Where do you want people go to find out more about you?
Well, I have an awesome podcast called Play It Brave, and it really is about finding that courage to charge more and to live the life that you really want to be living, and to work through the fear that's holding you back from the decisions that will take you where you want to go. So that's a really great place to connect with me. And then the website has a bunch of free trainings. And I would say if you're a photographer in any capacity, the profitable portfolio is going to change your freaking life.
Love
and that's it.
Love it. Well, D'Arcy, thank you so much. I know you gave us some amazing, just good things to think about, some really great advice. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to jump on here and hang out with us. And guys, that is it for Zenfolio Live. I want to say thanks to everybody who hung out with us today. Stephanie, Odin, Carl, Anna, Anthony, a bunch of you guys on Zoom. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget, we do Zenfolio Live every single week. So I will see you guys next week where we're going to be talking about referral marketing. Also, don't forget to join us for Wide Angle Wednesday. That's coming up on January 6th, the first Wednesday of every month. Until then, hope that you guys have a wonderful, safe weekend. Make sure that you go do something positive for somebody, lift somebody up, encourage somebody, and let's all work together to make this world a better place because it could really, really use it right now. Thank you again so much, D'Arcy. I hope you have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you both. Bye.
Bye.